Hello, everyone, and welcome to BodyBags. I'll be your reviewer for today. I'm Lonnie from Terra and Tats, and it's Saturday the 14th now, so beware, because remember, Saturday the 14th is supposed to be even worse than Friday the 13th. So yeah, don't think you're out of the woods yet. I wonder how Sunday the 15th works. Anyway, so I hope everybody had a good, fun, and safe Friday the 13th. I did, and I spent it pretty much, the best way I could. It's like, went got a new tattoo. Well, actually, I got three of them. I got this one. I got a kind of like a scorpion spider on my leg that it's really cool. It's kind of like the body of the spider is kind of shaped like it looks almost like like a jack-o'-lantern, with like the face of a jack-o'-lantern stuff. It's like really cool. And I got one in another place that, I really can't show you. It's here. It's on my chest. Okay, get your mind out of the gutters. All right. So I got three new tattoos today, and which I'm happy about. And also too, I binge watched Jason movies, which one should on Friday the 13th. And bringing up Friday the 13th, okay, you already know that this actually, I did not plan this, but a lot of this kind of falls, just kind of, just synchronicity, everything just kind of worked up. Or at least I feel like it did. Okay, so the movie this week we're doing another volume of Scream Factory releases, and the one that I picked actually came out in 1981, which actually has special makeup effects by Tom Savini, who did this movie right after Friday the 13th, and yeah, and the movie I'm talking about is Eyes of a Stranger, and this is a really good slasher movie, and it's very more. There is a little bit of gore working here by Savini, but to be truthfully honest with you, this movie is much more. Um, it's much more like a kind of like a suspense horror film and stuff. It's like there is a little bit of gore here, but definitely not Savini's bloodiest, goriest just all out carnage fest that he's been known for. But still, you get some really cool shots in this one. Probably the best one is if you've seen his books or seen any of the documentaries about Savini, and they reference this movie, is where the character gets his head cut off with a meat cleaver, and then the head is sitting in the fish tank, and then it's revealed that because Savini, the way he was, it's like he always wanted to try to use as much of the actor as he could, to try to give it that little extra bit of realism. So I mean, any special effects artist could have just taken, like a fish tank and, did a cast of the actor's head and all that kind of stuff, and just plopped the head in the fish tank. Savini didn't do that. No, he went the extra route and everything, and he, made up the actor and all that stuff. And then, they did like a shelf where they, had the, kind of like the top of the shelf would cut off the actor's head, and, you would have this false, kind of like bookcase and stuff, but the actor's actually sitting behind it and everything else with his head sitting in a fish tank of water. So there you go. But anyway, yeah, I'm getting off track here. This movie was released in a six-pack by Warner Brothers. It was called the Twisted Terror Collection. And there was this one. There was Deadly Friend. There was John Carpenter's Someone's Watching Me. There was Oliver Stone's The Hand. There was, let's see, I think it was Dr. Giggles, I believe, was the other one. And the other one, I believe it was From Beyond the Grave. I think it was those six movies. And so now, now Scream Factory is kind of going through and giving these all Blu-ray releases, which I never bought the six pack. I just had the four pack. The four movie collection that had this, The Hand, Deadly Friend, and I think I said Deadly Blessing. I meant Deadly Friend. This, The Hand, Deadly Friend, and Someone's Watching Me. So now it's like I got rid of that because now I'm upgrading to these babies. So I think, and now Scream Factory just announced they're putting out Dr. Giggles, and so right now you can also get From Beyond the Grave. That one's a Warner Archive release, but you never know. They may decide to go ahead and do that one too. Anyway, I know I keep rambling, but let's get talking about the movie. The movie actually is it's got a pretty good story to it, and the funny thing is, it's like this is movies like this slasher movies like this from the 1980s and stuff, movies like this are the reason why I can't really get behind the 90s slasher movies like Scream, because they tried to, that was like really the whole thing, like was like they tried to make it out like, okay, Scream is so much smarter, so much more intellectual, and so much better than films like this that were made in the 80s, which these movies, oh, they were just schlock, they were exploitation, they, no thought process behind it or anything like that. But here's the thing, it's like you know, I would be shocked if Kevin Williamson, the writer of Scream, did not take inspiration from this movie, because you watch this movie, there is a lot of, things in here that later on ended up being in the Scream films. Okay. Like for one thing, you know, um, one of the big things that we have is that the female, okay, yeah, the victims in the movie are women. The killer is, he's a rapist. He's, horrible psycho. He's a woman hater, obviously, and things like this. And so his MO is that he, you know, picks and targets these women, random women, and then he, rapes and murders them. But before he does, he makes a series of threatening phone calls. And so, he's calling them and is like, like the at the beginning of the movie, you have a photographer. He's out taking pictures, and he finds, the sad, unfortunate corpse of this latest, victim. And then, we're introduced to this character, Debbie, who works in a bar, and the bartender's like, please, Debbie, hey, take care, be safe. And she's like, no, don't worry, I'll be all right. And then as soon as she gets home, the phone calls start. So there's definitely a bit of both when a stranger calls and, you know, yeah, a little bit of that. Not so much Black Christmas, but anyway. So the guy just keeps calling, and he's just like, "Debbie, are you wearing a bra? Debbie, I'm going to kill you. Debbie, you can't get away from me, Debbie," and all this stuff. And so her boyfriend comes over, and that's where you get the scene. The guy gets the head cut off and stuff, and then unfortunately, Debbie becomes the next victim. So then we're introduced to our main character, Jane, who is played by what's her actress's name again? It's Lauren Tewes, T E. I hope I'm saying that right. Tewes, Tewes, from The Love Boat. Anyway, so she plays Jane, and she's a newscaster working for the local news. The movie takes place in Florida. I believe it's supposed to be Miami. So she's a newscaster, and she's talking she's doing news stories about this, and she's, of course, being a woman, she's going to be very, she's going to be very on about this. This is going to be something she's passionate about. She wants women to be safe. She wants women to be protected. And so she's asking her, please, anybody, if you have any information, please call, and and everything else, please help us out. Don't let there be more women victims and stuff. And so and also too, there is a bit of a motivation why she's so gung-ho about this as well, because Jane has a sister, Tracy, who's played by Jennifer Jason Leigh. And if I believe correctly, I believe this was the first the first co-starring role of Jennifer Jason Leigh. I believe this was before all the other stuff. She Fast Times at Ridgemont High and everything. I believe this was her first acting role. And it turned out that Tracy, at a young age, she was a young girl, we discovered that Tracy was abducted, and she was violated and attacked and everything, which, of course, yeah, they don't show much of it, which, thank God. I mean, nobody wants to see that. It's horrible enough. It's just the idea. But in a way, in the movie, it kind of makes it even more horrible, because unfortunately, they say, like, sometimes your mind can come up with even more horrible things than what they can show you. But as a result, Tracy was left deaf and blind because of it. And so the two of them, they live together, they take care of each other and things. And but Jane has a boyfriend, David, and and David is, he's nuts about Jane. He, hell, he's ready to marry her. He loves her so much and everything else. And they seem to have a good relationship, but Jane is terrified of the idea. She feels like, because of what happened to Tracy, she feels like she did, failed as being the big sister. She failed at protecting Tracy and, being there for her when she needed her. and things like this, and she feels like it's her fault, and she feels like she needs to overcompensate by trying to always be there for Tracy and take care of her and all this other kind of stuff. But we find out that Tracy is actually, she's quite capable, even with her disabilities and stuff. She's actually pretty capable. And at one point, like, David goes to the apartment, so they could talk and have coffee and everything else. And they see Tracy, she's taking the laundry down to the laundromat and everything else. And he's like, wow, she can do this. And Jane's like, yeah, she can do all kinds of stuff and everything else. She's pretty capable and stuff like that. But anyway, so, Jane actually, she comes across this man named Stanley Herbert. And Stanley Herbert is played by John DiSanti. And what did they say he was in? The Relic. It says here he's in The Relic. So anyway, she comes across him, and he's very suspicious looking. And so she sees him like getting rid of what looks like a bloody shirt and everything. And so she starts kind of wondering like, hey, what's up with this guy and everything. And she starts like looking into him and stuff. And so there's some pretty suspenseful moments. And the more she uncovers, the more she realizes this guy, Stanley Herbert, he pretty much appears to be, the serial killer of all these women. And, so anyway, so when she's pretty much fully convinced, but here's the problem though, it's like, she's trying to get David, because David is a lawyer and all this stuff, she's trying to get him to, see about getting some kind of a, like search warrant against him or whatever else. And he's just like, I can't do it and all this kind of stuff. And at one point she breaks into Stanley's apartment, and she finds, shoes that are like caked in mud. And so she tries to give it to him, and he's like, you broke into his apartment? It's like, gee, there's no way I can use this as evidence, because of the way you got it. And she's like, but here's the thing, you need evidence. It's like, yeah, but I can't do it. And so ultimately, Jane, she decides that she's going to start antagonizing this guy to try to see if she could get him to crack. But in a way, it's also satisfying because, like I said, the killer's MO is that he makes all these harassing phone calls to these women victims. Well, most of the time, he, makes these harassing phone calls to these women victims and stalks them, and then, closes in and kills these women and stuff. And then, but also too, it's like she's, it's a very satisfying way because she ends up turning the tables on him, and she starts calling him, and she starts, messing with him and just telling him, I know who you are. Why don't you turn yourself in? Or, all this other kind of stuff and everything else. And so he's like, leave me alone, and all this kind of, she's like, no, you need to pay for what you're doing and all this stuff and everything else. And at one point, it's kind of funny because Jane, she gets done calling the guy. Then she's sitting there, she's lighting a cigarette. She's almost like, she had a little bit too much enjoyment, which, can you blame her? I mean, if this, of course, this guy is the one who's, killing all these women. So it's kind of, she's having a little bit of fun, the fact she's turning the tables on him. So anyway, but then unfortunately what ends up happening is he starts to figure out who she is. And then he finds out about Tracy. And so he decides he's going to make Tracy his next victim. And so now it's kind of a race against time because now he wants to go after Tracy, and Jane needs to try to, help her sister and everything. And I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to get too much more, okay? Especially you haven't seen it and stuff. But this is a really good film. But, it's just like I said, it just, movies like this are the reason why I have so much trouble with, the whole thing of like, oh, they didn't make, like pro-female slasher movies until Scream came out. And, it wasn't, we didn't get good slasher movies until the 90s and all that kind of stuff. Because all these movies were just so anti-women and stuff like that. And it's all like, no, you have a really good female cast in this movie. You have, Lauren Tewes in this movie. You have Jennifer Jason Leigh, which, really, she does a great job. It's like you have strong female characters in here. They're not being saved by any man. They end up, taking care of business themselves and everything else. And so it's just, so it's like when you watch movies like this and like we had these kind of movies in the 80s and all this kind of stuff. So that's why I'm just in there like when everybody's like, oh, we didn't have anything, that represented women until Scream or whatever. I'm just in there like, shut up. God, just shut up. I'm so sick of hearing. I think that's one of the reasons why I just like the Scream and I know what you did last summer and all that. I can't really deal with those anymore. Just like, it's like it's those to me. It's like those series of movies just try to be more smarter than they really are, and it's like, ugh. Anyway, so sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here, but this is a good addition by Scream Factory. You do get some bonus features here. You get audio commentary with genre film critic Justin Kurzweil and film historian Amanda Reyes. You get audio interviews with composer Richard Einhorn and actor Peter Dupre. Turning the Tables, an interview with director Ken Wiederhorn. I'll get to him in a second. You got Sunshine State Stalker, an interview with actor John DiSanti, who played Stanley Herbert in the movie. And you got Master Slashers, interview with special makeup effects creator Tom Savini and special makeup artist Dean Gates. So, of course, obviously just to see the Tom Savini, special alone is worth buying this for. But yeah, you get some decent special effects and you get some cool tips and stuff on this, for making of the film. Ken Wiederhorn, who directed this, before this, he directed Shockwaves, which when you watch this movie, there are scenes in the movie at the beginning. It's more at the beginning of the movie. He's kind of like throwing in a little Easter egg because, all the characters on TV are watching Shockwaves. And then, I guess there's a little bit of a nod to Savini because at one point, David tries to take Jane to the movies and they're going to see Dawn of the Dead. So I guess that was meant to be kind of a little bit of a shout out to Savini as well. But Wiederhorn, in this interview, he does talk about how he was not really digging doing horror movies and stuff like that. And he kind of he didn't really want to be like his life's dream to make horror films and stuff. So he wanted to get out of it and, do other kind of films, which is why by the time he got the job to direct Return of the Living Dead Part 2, he was just like, yeah, it's a zombie movie and stuff, but I'm making the movie a full-blown comedy and everything else because I just want to get out of the horror movie game and stuff like that. And another interesting story, though, is that he tells us, when they started shooting the movie, Jennifer Jason Leigh was 17, and they said, Jennifer Jason Leigh, she's always been this kind of rough and tough, ready to go actress. She's always willing to, she's willing to take up a challenge, go that extra mile, things like that. And at one point, they said, she was willing to do a topless scene for the movie. She was willing to do nudity. And they said, but here was the problem, though. It's when they started making the film, she was only 17 years old. So, of course, they couldn't do that. Now, as the movie went on, during production of the film, she had her birthday. She went from 17 to 18. And so, she came to him, she said, hey, I was like, I'm 18 years old. I'm legal age now. The offer still stands. You want it? I'll do it and everything. And she came up with this idea for this scene in the movie. I'm not going to give it away, but there is a scene where, yes, Jennifer Jason Leigh, barely legal Jennifer Jason Leigh is topless in this movie. So yeah, that might be a reason for you to just want to see that for this alone. It's just knowing wait a minute, there's a scene in this movie with barely legal topless Jennifer Jason Leigh. Hell yeah, I'm going to watch that. So, there's a number of reasons to pick up this edition, but the transfer on here actually is pretty good. Let's see. I'm kind of curious to see if and when they're ever going to do a 4K of this. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But but it's it is a beautiful looking transfer. It's a good film. It was definitely an improvement over the Warner Brothers DVD I had. Plus we got some bonus features. So I would definitely say, for a multitude of reasons, Eyes of a Stranger actually is a really good film. You like a good, smart, intelligent slasher movie with Savini effects. Maybe not his most gruesome, his most carnage-filled film, ever, but still some really good stuff in here. And just good acting, good storytelling, good, strong, likable female characters and everything else. This movie's got it all. So, so I would definitely say, go ahead and, buy this and give it a watch. So, how is it? I always try to make my videos shorter and they always end up being longer. It's like, oh my God. Anyway, if anybody took the time to watch all of this, I thank you for doing it, and I appreciate you for doing it. I honestly hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, would you please leave it a like? And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the BodyBags channel. We have a different reviewer, one for every day of the week. I'm the Saturday reviewer. We have a different bunch of guys and guys. Yeah, we got a different bunch of guys. Everybody's doing really good stuff, and I'm really happy to be a part of this group. And so we got more fun theme weeks coming. We got year weeks and everything else. I just picked up my copy of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with Spencer Tracy because we're getting ready to do 1941 horror films. Looking forward to that. So that's it, everybody. So please take care. Come back again, and I'll see you later.